All right, welcome in. Happy Wednesday. It's a special edition, right? It's a big week in Baltimore. It is 10:30. Well, I guess technically 10:38 now, East Coast time, but it's a big week. Why? Ravens, Chiefs, AFC Championship game in Baltimore. Everything's on the line. So we thought we would do a special show. And we'll get to the reason why, but let's go around for who's in studio with us today. We have Zach. He's back in, as always, in his chair.
I know. It's nice to see the studio in the morning. I like it. Nice and calm.
It is very calm.
Yeah.
And you know,
we got the plants everywhere. People don't know this. We have plants everywhere here.
It's a massive studio space that
So
people are
many
not
plants.
really sure how it all works, but we do have an NBA Jams, and next to the NBA Jams is Rocco DeSangro is glad to join us. Rocco, how we doing?
You guys right now, like without coffee, your voices are like nails on a chalkboard. So like, let's keep it down today, right now.
Get him off.
We don't need that. We don't need that energy. And this is the real reason why. Enough of that. We got Kevin, obviously locked on Ravens, but then the man that we've been wanting to talk with, because if you've heard us talk about him and people that have known, Engraven, the legend himself. Good morning. How you doing? How you feeling?
Oh, is he muted?
Do you guys mute him?
Oh, my fault. I'm over here.
There he is.
My apologies. I think that now my guy Kevin was right. That intro was loud, but I love it though. But it was loud. I had to take my headphones out. But yeah, everything's good. I appreciate y'all having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you. Can you, before we get going here, can you explain? I see a lot of people are a lot of sponges in the chat.
That's soap. That is
soap. I think it's soap.
Okay,
Keeping it clean.
This team keep it clean. Yeah, that's what they're doing, man. So much love to everybody in the comment section.
Well, and I'm sure that a lot of those people, they follow you. If you're new to our channel, if you can hit that like and subscribe, and if you aren't already subscribed, and you already probably should be, if you aren't, Engraven, you've set the standard for all this on YouTube, which has been amazing. We're glad to have you on. Eventually, we want to get you in studio because we got to get you in that NBA Jam tournament that's going to be behind Rocco. But let's get going with this big weekend coming up in here in Baltimore. First AFC Championship game in Ravens history. And actually, I think, Brad, if you have
They're hosting.
That they're hosting.
There we go.
Yeah. Sorry. It's
Don't
the
wanna-
morning for everyone.
We don't want to clip that, right?
It's all
just wanna
good.
Make sure we're good. Yeah.
But so just initial thoughts here. I know for some reason last week it was the anxiousness to get to the first game. And right now there's somewhat a calm before the storm, but there's a little bit more, I'd say maybe anticipation, especially for the team that's coming into town when the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh yeah, because it's personal. It's personal with the Chiefs. You know, last time they came to M&T Bank, the Ravens beat them, but the Chiefs had got the Ravens number those few games before that. But this is for the AFC Championship. The Kansas City Chiefs have been the team out of the AFC. They are the current reigning Super Bowl champions. Patrick Mahomes, best in the NFL. Like, so this game is so big. I really thought that it was going to be the Buffalo Bills, who the Ravens were going against. I thought the Buffalo Bills were going to get Kansas City the other night, but Kansas City, they found a way to win. But it just makes sense because, like so many Ravens fans have said this week, in order to be the best, you got to beat the best. So Kansas City, a perfect opponent.
And they are, and that's just a team you can't count out. I mean, they just, whenever you want to say that they're dead, it's over. The reign is over. They find a way. That's now 6 straight years of going to the AFC Championship game for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. That duo, you can say what you want, but their track record speaks for itself. But one thing we did want to mention, and Brad actually made a little comparison between the Ravens and the Chiefs, and we wanted to pull that graphic up here just to start the conversation because, look, it's been an interesting year for the Chiefs offensively. And Brad, do you have that graphic with us?
Yeah, so I actually want to kind of provide a little bit of context. I made this because of what was posted by ESPN last night. So if you guys didn't catch the SportsCenter post, they posted out last night, and I know this is to trigger some people, but either way, I had to respond to it. So Patrick Mahomes enters Sunday's matchup with more postseason passing touchdowns in the Ravens franchise, which is pretty crazy. 38 touchdowns to 37 for the Ravens franchise. But what I wanted to bring up this particular season in the here and now is that the Ravens offense has been better than the Chiefs offense. We'll get into some of the defensive numbers because we know what they're about, but we take a look at this graphic right here. This season, the Ravens have scored over an entire touchdown more than the Chiefs have this entire season. Obviously, you can see total touchdowns there, a pretty significant difference as well. The real big kicker is total yards, but the Chiefs just have kind of struggled to punch it in the end zone really all season long. And of course, postseason, of course, all bets are off, and we've seen a huge change, at least in the way the Chiefs have played the Bills. Here's the one thing I'll say about that, though, with the Bills game, and I told this to the boys too. Neither one of those defenses really scared me, because the Bills defense was certainly beat up, and the Kansas City defense, at least in that Bills game, was not playing like the Kansas City defense we have seen in the past. You got Thuney that's also potentially out for this game that could impact them on the offensive side of the ball. So I feel good about this. And I know that, look, it's Patrick Mahomes. Anything can happen. But I really do feel good about our Ravens team that's mostly healthy. We got Mark Andrews coming back. So I just feel really good about what's coming this weekend.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the Mark Andrews conversation here in a second, Engraven, but I wanted to start this off and showing that graphic. I think everyone wants to get so caught up in passing touchdowns. I think that was Brad's point. Everyone wants to get caught up in, well, how do you score? But at the end of the day, it's, do you score? And the Ravens have done that so well. And their ground attack, it's no secret. No one runs the ball better than the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson's obviously a huge proponent of that. So I guess we'll start it off with you, Engraven, on this topic. The Ravens, it seems like for their identity, running the football is going to be a huge key. And we've seen that the Chiefs have been exploited, especially on the ground so far this season and this postseason.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And even just looking at that graphic, you see the Chiefs, they have the much higher average in total yards than the Baltimore Ravens. But like they mentioned earlier, it's not all about yards. It's about scoring. It's about touchdowns. And with the Baltimore Ravens, you can tell by those numbers that efficiency is everything. And they get the job done when it matters the most. And they put enough points. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, a pick six, a fumble, whatever they put enough points. And that's what it takes to win in the National Football League. With everybody getting caught up with passing touchdowns, I really do appreciate with Lamar Jackson expected to win his second MVP this year, that it seems like people are more into watching film now than ever. Because if you just look at the numbers for Lamar Jackson, they're not the prettiest, they're not the sexiest numbers in the world. But people are seeing like, hold up, no, this dude really is an MVP because he is extremely valuable to the team. He doesn't have the most passing yards, the most passing touchdowns. He don't even have the most rushing touchdowns for a quarterback, because we know that was Josh Allen. But they see his play, they see what he does, they see his impact to the Baltimore Ravens, and you can't deny it.
Yeah, and I think this Sunday is going to be more about the Ravens offense and more about Lamar Jackson, that I think people are going into it thinking about. Everyone's talking about the Chiefs offense versus Ravens defense. I believe the Chiefs are 0-5 when the opposing team gives up, or when they allow 23 or more points. So I think it's really important for the Ravens to get out fast and allow that defense to start suffocating Kansas City. So, Engraven, who do you kind of think what's your game plan for the Ravens? Do you think it's going to be mainly the run game? Do you think they're going to try to get Lamar Jackson passing the ball?
Oh, yeah. And what's going on, Zach? I always think
as
viral Zach, because every single tweet I see is going up, it's going crazy and all that. But what's going on, man?
I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. I think it's going to be a little bit of both. Like Ryan talked about earlier, the Chiefs, they lack in run defense. So, Baltimore Ravens, that's one of their biggest strengths. That's what they built on, the run game. So, they're going to be running that ball for sure. But the Chiefs, it's funny because when you think about Lamar Jackson, you think about the Baltimore Ravens offense, what a lot of people have said over the years has been just very, really ignorant statements when it comes to Ravens offense. They'll be like, oh, if you keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket, then, oh, yeah, we got him. We just keep him in the pocket. That's all we got to do. But we know when Lamar Jackson's in the pocket, he'll dice you up. But then it's like, all right, if Lamar Jackson's on the move too, that's when people are most scared of him, because we know what he can do with his arm, but we know what he can do with his legs too. So it's like, what do you do? How do you stop Lamar Jackson? So I'm sure the Chiefs are going to try to have a calculated pass rush against Lamar Jackson, to where they get after him and send extra blitzes and whatnot. But they got to be very, very, very smart about it, because Lamar Jackson against the blitz this year, he's been really successful. So as far as Chiefs game plan for Lamar, it's really going to be just, I think, just wishing on the star, really, just hoping that he messes up, just hoping that they can get to him. I think they may be taking some notes from the Texans in the first half of the game last week, because It was ugly. The offensive line was not blocking. I said that it seemed like the offensive line was actually letting the Texans through on purpose because it was so bad.
Yeah.
It was just all kinds of bad. But the Baltimore Ravens, they made the proper adjustments. So I think that's going to be the name of the game, the offensive line. I mean, you can say that for any game, but certainly when it comes to Lamar Jackson, you give Lamar Jackson time, then he'll be able to do whatever he wants. And when he can do whatever he wants, then the Baltimore Ravens offense, they can do what they want. And when you face a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, your offense, I mean, obviously Ravens defense is great. They are phenomenal. But to make the Ravens defense even better would be for the Ravens to have a great offense and put up those points and keep away from Patrick Mahomes too.
Yeah, I like what you talked about with the Chiefs' run defense because it is weird. This has been one of those weird years where when people were talking about the Chiefs, it was, the offense can't figure it out. The defense is kind of carrying them, but they match up the Ravens match up very well against the Chiefs defense. And I saw this stat last night so the Baltimore Ravens have the second most runs out of the shotgun this season, 343, and are averaging 5.56 yards per carry. The Chiefs defense is allowing 5.13 yards per carry and have the lowest stuff rate in the league against runs out of the shotgun. And I think that is extremely worrisome for the Chiefs because that's kind of where the Ravens, that's their bread and butter, is getting the ball in Lamar's hand in the shotgun, the option play, whether it's getting the ball to Justice Hill or Gus Edwards out of the shotgun. And it spreads out the Chiefs defense, and it's going to make it very difficult, I think, for them to control Lamar Jackson when they're spread out, but the Ravens are also beating the ball up the gut and just kind of controlling the game there.
Yeah. That is a nice stat. I appreciate you sharing that too. And that just it shows Lamar Jackson's impact, but it also shows the Baltimore Ravens. And one thing that I really loved about them this year is that they can get it done in so many different ways. Whether they running from the shotgun, whether they passing from the shotgun, like you talked about the option plays, them having so many different options. Like before, we remember in years past, it would be, all right, Mark Andrews, maybe Hollywood Brown. And if those two weren't going in the passing game, then it's like, oh, okay, well, we lost. Oh, we suffering. Oh, we struggling. But now it's like, who do you focus on? Because if you say, for instance, like last week, Isaiah Likely in his first half of the game, not a factor at all. Not a factor, but you still got guys. You still got a Zay Flowers. You still got Odell Beckham. You still got Rashad Bateman. You still got Justice Hill. You still got Gus. You still got Lamar Jackson. So you have so many. Ravens can create so many different issues for the Chiefs in so many different ways, and it's exciting to think about as a Ravens fan, especially a game like this, especially against a team like this. But it's fun times, man. It's fun times that we done came a very, very long way. That stat that you talked about. If you a Ravens fan, maybe about I'll say about 8-9 years ago, and that stat that talked about if teams score over 20 points against the Chiefs,
I think it's
then if we were a Ravens fan for a while ago, that stat would scare us because there were a lot of times when Ravens offense just was not scoring over 20 points. If we scored,
it was like we got to hold them to 10.
Yeah, if we scored over 20 points, we were jumping for joy. Like, oh yeah, we had a phenomenal day on offense. But now
offense was buzzing.
Yeah, but nowadays we're like spoiled, and it's so crazy, and we're appreciative that we are because it's been a long journey. But that does definitely play in the Ravens' favor for sure.
And I think too, Engraven, when you're talking about this whole thing. Early down rushes, if you're the Ravens, you get yourself into a 2nd and 3, 2nd and short situation, it's going to make the Chiefs respect your run because if they play the run with a light box against that Ravens physical front, they combo block, get to the second level, that's going to be key because then the Chiefs have to begin to, again, stack the box, bring more guys up, and then that opens up play action. It opens up some rollouts, and I think that to me is really important. But the other aspect is I think the turnover battle between both teams. And the Chiefs defense, admittedly, they've been pretty good this year. It's almost like we're doing an identity shift for the Chiefs here this year because it was all about over the course of Patrick Mahomes in his career. The offense is so explosive back when Tyreek was there. And Travis Kelce, I think this year has been bogged down by some injuries here and there. And we haven't seen the Travis Kelce of years past. But the Chiefs defense does not force a lot of turnovers in terms of turnover percentage. They're 25th in the league in turnover percentage. And I think we've said it all season. You and I have talked about it too. When if this Ravens team plays mistake-free football and they don't turn the ball over, they're very difficult, if not impossible. I know it's not technically impossible, but they're very difficult to beat if they don't turn the ball over on offense.
Oh yeah, and that just and special shout out to my guy KO, man. We go way back.
Appreciate you, man.
But yeah, if they don't turn the ball over, yeah, that's dangerous right there. That's a scary team if they don't turn that ball over, because even just look last week against the Texans, because Texans, I don't believe they turned the ball over all game either. And they only put up 3 points on offense. But Ravens, they put up a bunch of points. They put up, what was it, 34, I think? 34, 10-1. So yeah. So Ravens, like, and if they're not turning the ball over, that usually means that they're rolling on offense. Because obviously turnovers are terrible and we don't want any parts of it. But even Ravens defense too. When you talk about turnovers, Ravens, obviously they forced a bunch of turnovers this year. But even in a game like last week, where they didn't force any turnovers either, but they still held the Texans down. They still, and then there was that other crazy stat that came out too that I hadn't even realized during the game. I didn't see it until after, where it said the Texans, they didn't even get to the red zone all game. Like, I think they didn't even cross the 25. I think that's what it was.
Didn't get past the 25. Didn't get past the 25.
That makes no sense, man. That makes no, for a team that didn't turn the ball over, a team with CJ Stroud, a team with what, Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, who for a while in the game they were balling, but then they got a little quieter in the second half. But still, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that's crazy. So Baltimore Ravens defense, they keep showing us, man, just how great they are. That's why they got to finish this year the right way, man. They got to.
Have to.
Yeah.
We are all hoping for it, right? And if you're just tuning in here, by the way, thank you for tuning in. We got Engraven with us, and if you can like and subscribe to this channel, I'm sure you're already following him. If you're not, I don't know what you're doing. This is the guy that made all this happen and started on YouTube. But we brought up this offense a little bit, and the news that's coming out, the reports that we wanted to touch on, that Mark Andrews is probably going to play, which is crazy to think given the circumstances when it happened against Cincinnati. But we always had this thought that maybe Mark Andrews was going to get a chance to get back out there. But guys, I think, and Rock, you've seen in practice a little bit of talking about it, it's been a long process for Mark, and there's a chance he's still probably not going to be at 100%.
Yeah, and we had touched on that last week. Like, he was a full participant in the final 2 practices of the week, which was a great sign. He was trending upwards, but the Ravens, at the end of the day, they decided not to activate him, whether that was a them decision or a Mark Andrews decision. And I really didn't mind that decision. You want to get Mark Andrews out on the field. Engraven, you know this good and well, as healthy as humanly possible. He's probably not going to be 100% coming off that ankle injury, coming back as soon as he has, but to be as close to 100% as he possibly can be. And I truly think Mark Andrews coming back, it's going to complement what they have going with Isaiah Likely right now. Now, I don't know if you go into this game and you take Isaiah Likely out of the lead tight end role when Mark Andrews comes back, but I think these two, like, depending on if he's on a snap count or not, can really complement each other out there on the field, especially with how well Likely's been playing this season.
Oh yeah, for sure, Rocco. I love that you switched to being a backwards hat guy all of a sudden.
It's all for the best.
Backwards hat kind of guy. I love it.
But yeah, I think you don't take Isaiah Likely out of that starting role. I think Mark, and it'll be a tough pill to swallow, because again, we know Mark Andrews is that guy, and he's been that guy for the Baltimore Ravens and been that guy for Lamar Jackson for years. But I just feel like you don't want to fix what's not broken. Isaiah Likely has been balling out tremendously. He's been going crazy. I remember last year and even earlier this year when Mark Andrews was still healthy, it just seemed like with Lamar Jackson and Isaiah Likely, their connection, it was a bit off. Like, whether Lamar, if he threw a pass to him, it may be a little too far in front of him, or sometimes Isaiah Likely would just drop it. They didn't have the greatest chemistry or rapport. But since Mark Andrews has been out and Isaiah Likely has been in, and he's just really stepped up, and their chemistry has gone like that. I know a lot of people's or actually my favorite play, and I know a lot of other people's favorite play from the game was the Isaiah Likely touchdown. But if you go a couple plays before that, I know you all saw where Lamar tried to fit it in that window, but it was dangerous. And I think Petrie almost picked it off, but thank goodness that he dropped it. And Isaiah Likely, he knew. He just told Lamar, put it up a little higher. That's it. And I got you. A couple plays later, Lamar, okay, I got you. And he threw it up, boom, touchdown. So it's things like that make such a big difference. And you can't take that off the field. Now with Mark Andrews coming back, it does give Lamar Jackson another weapon. It gives the Baltimore Ravens another option. It gives defenses another person that they would have to worry about with the Mark Andrews. And when defenses have more to worry about, it's much better for the Baltimore Ravens. So with Mark Andrews coming back, I don't expect him to be a full go out there 100% of the snaps, anything like that. But I do expect him to still get his, but I expect him to be able to create a nice distraction as well.
Yeah, Engraven, first of all, again, thanks for coming on the show. And I was gonna follow up on that. First of all, I got two questions. First question is, I've been watching you a long time, and I gotta ask you because growing up, I was in church every Sunday. Every time the church doors were open, I was there. And you sound like a pastor. You sound like my pastor. Do you have any experience in preaching or anything like that? Or you just that's what you remind me of, man. Like, get me fired up, and it's awesome. But the other question is too, just to touch on Mark Andrews, is that I kind of thought that perhaps they would kind of use him as more or less of a decoy. Not that he isn't healthy enough to play, but like he's just that other distraction. And to your point, as you had just said, it just gives the defense more things to think about. Now there's weapons at wide receiver, and now you got almost kind of like a dynamic back when the Patriots had tight ends all over the place as well. So kind of feels like that vibe. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, it does remind us a lot of the Patriots with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. Now we do not want Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews to have the off the field stuff now, but it does just keep killing it on the field, and that's it. It creates more problems. Something that I know for me, and I know a lot of other people have been wanting something like this for years, especially for Lamar Jackson, because in years prior, it hasn't felt like we ever had it. And what I'm talking about is just a plethora of weapons. Before, like we spoke about earlier, it would be Mark Andrews and Hollywood, and that was pretty much it. But outside of them, it wasn't really anything too special. But it could have been a lot better. Ravens could have done a much better job of really getting after it. But this year, I have just loved how they attacked it. They attacked having weapons for Lamar Jackson. They signed Nelson Aguilar, and when they signed him, I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, well, let's see."
I'll never forget that slander. I'll never forget that slander he got on the day he was signed.
Yeah, that was a tough scene. I'm not gonna lie.
It was. It was scary, but then they signed.
We thought that was wide receiver one.
I did too for a little bit. But then they signed Odell Beckham Jr. Then they drafted Zay Flowers, and I remember when all three of those things happened. After they did, I was a little worried. I was like, "Oh man, I think they might trade Rashad Bateman." I don't know, especially because of Rashad Bateman, the tweet that he put out to EDC and whatnot. Y'all need to take care of us and da 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 da. So I'm like, ooh, remember the last wide receiver that tweeted something like that? They got shipped out soon after. But they kept Rashad Bateman, which I was glad about. They went, and last year they drafted the two tight ends, and Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar. At running back, that right there with J.K. Dobbins, they had J.K. Dobbins, Gus, and Justice. So those were essentially three locks. But then with Keaton Mitchell, I remember when they first signed Keaton Mitchell in the offseason as an undrafted free agent. I heard so many people telling me stuff about him. I didn't know anything about him, but I heard so many people saying how good he was, how fast he was. He'd just be a great player. And then when I saw it for myself, I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, they got to find a way to keep this guy. And they did, which I was surprised. And then, of course, all the injuries happened, unfortunately, to JK, unfortunately, to Keaton. But I say all that to say this is that it's just been very nice that the Baltimore Ravens have so many weapons, so many different ways. Like we talked about, like we talked about earlier, so many different ways that how they can get it. And with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, with Mark Andrews getting ready to come back, like you mentioned, he can be a decoy. He can be a distraction, but he's somebody that he's a distraction because he's already proven that you have to respect him. And Lamar Jackson, which I love. Remember before with Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews could have one guy on him, Lamar throw to him. Mark Andrews could have two guys on him, Lamar throw to him. Mark Andrews could have 3 or 4 guys on him, the whole team, whole defense, and Lamar will still give him a chance. But now with Isaiah Likely, Lamar Jackson has shown that same trust in him too. And the biggest game where I remember that from is the Jacksonville Jaguars game on Sunday Night Football in Jacksonville, because Lamar Jackson, he had Dwayne Smoot, the defensive end, who the Ravens, they had brought in for a visit, or they scheduled a visit with him, but then the Jaguars were like, nope, he's coming back home. So it ended up working out. But Smoot was all over Lamar, broke off of him, and then Lamar saw Isaiah Likely, 2 people on him, and Lamar just threw it up. When I'm watching the game live, I'm like, oof, that's gonna be an interception. Oh, this because that ball was just hanging in the air so long, and you saw the defender right there getting ready to pick it off, but Isaiah Likely said, nope, that's mine, I got it. So Lamar Jackson putting his trust in him, that showed that like their connection is everything. And it's, I can't say it's like Mark Andrews and Lamar's connection, but I mean, it's getting close because Lamar's giving them opportunity. So with Mark Andrews being back, it just makes life easier for the Baltimore Ravens offense.
And I think really briefly on this too, this trajectory for Mark, again, the injury that he suffered, the injuries with the fibia and the ankle, not easy to come back from. But the way that we've seen the Ravens handle their injuries over recent years, really ever since JK went down and that whole injury situation, it's honestly, and Rocco, maybe you can attest a little more to this because, you know, you've been at practice and heard Harbaugh speak and kind of gotten a read, but we've seen this a couple of times where the Ravens have had a guy practice in full for a couple of times throughout the week, and then they won't play, and then they'll have him come back the next week is almost like the precaution of, we'll get you back into a practice rhythm early, coming back from something. We're going to give you the extra week. We're going to have you come back. And it's them, I think, one, being cautious, but two, just trying to get them in a rhythm and not throwing them out there. Because the thing you don't want to happen here is, I know this Texans game, the win, it kind of puts the 2019 Ravens to bed. We don't have to really talk about them anymore. I think it was one of the big weights off of everybody's shoulders. But if we go back to that game for a second, I think that part of why the Ravens lost that game was because early they couldn't establish a rhythm because Mark Andrews was injured in that game. And Lamar tried to throw a ball to him, and he couldn't jump for it, and it resulted in an interception. And obviously, Mark Ingram was active, but really wasn't healthy and shouldn't have been playing. I don't even think he played in the first place, really. So to have Mark healthy, you want to have him, because with rushing a guy back, it's two things, and I've said this before, where it obviously, if there's a risk of him re-injuring himself, that obviously is something you don't want to mess with. Yeah. But it can also impact the team during the actual game, because if a guy isn't up to 100% and he clearly can't go out and do the things that make, like for Mark, if he can't be Mark on the field, like we saw in that Tennessee game, it can be detrimental to you in that specific game as well. So I think it's big, and it's something where the Ravens, I don't want to say they've shifted their injury philosophy, but things have changed over the years, especially with the departure of Steve Saunders, getting in a new training staff. And I think we're now seeing them reap the benefits of this, because for the past 4 years, we've talked about how injured this team is, And I think now they're actually relatively healthy for the most part, because they've lost guys throughout the season, but it's been for a month. It's been for 3 weeks. And then they come back. Obviously, Keaton's done for the season, JK, and we thought Mark, but I think it's been a really nice shift for the Ravens in terms of their injuries and how they've handled them.
I think the biggest fear for Kansas City is kind of what we've just been talking about. Mark Andrews is a decoy until he's not. Like, this is still Mark Andrews. So the second that Kansas City starts treating him as a decoy, going, okay, he's not fully healthy, you know, he's not doing much in the first half, Mark Andrews can go find that ball in the end zone, make a big time play. And I think that's why he's activated, because he's always going to still have that ability.
Well, he's a big time player, and Engraven is actually going to ask you about this. And I saw people saying, well, why don't the Ravens run more 2 tight end sets, having Andrews and Likely on the field? For some reason throughout it, and we saw Isaiah Likely the previous preseason, he blew up, and you're going, man, this guy's dynamic. This guy can make plays. But when Mark Andrews was healthy or on the field, the production from Likely just wasn't there. And I always equated it to, because for me, playing baseball, the more at bats you get, the more that you're in there and get the reps, you're going to have the more chance to be in rhythm, right? Running backs talk about it all the time, of the more carries we get, we feel like, or they say we can get into the feel of the game. I always wondered, Engraven, if Isaiah Likely was that type of guy, because when Mark played, Isaiah was a non-factor. But when Mark's not in the equation, he puts on the Superman cape, and he turns out and proves that he can be just as dynamic of a tight end in the NFL, especially after he makes a catch and, you know, running after the catch.
Oh yeah, for sure. I real quick, I just had to vote what we want to see this weekend on the most recent poll that you put, and I do want to see a Pat Ricard.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would love it. Now with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, I think, just like you talked about, I think it's just all about opportunity. I think it's about 2 things though: opportunity and trust. Like we were saying earlier, before with Lamar and Likely, when Isaiah Likely would be out there, the trust wasn't all the way there. The chemistry wasn't all the way there. With Mark Andrews, that was Lamar's guy. That was his focal point at the tight end position. But Isaiah Likely, he was the second option. And he was actually not even a second option because he was behind a lot of the other receivers as well that would be up in front of him as far as the Lamar's options for pass catchers. But with Mark Andrews going out, it just presented a big opportunity for Isaiah Likely to where it's like, all right, there's no Mark Andrews. It's just me and Lamar. We're going to get this thing right. And it has shown Lamar Jackson his growth as a quarterback, his growth as a leader. And this, I think really this season overall has really just shown that too. The fact that he'll find different people. And I really think that, because I know a lot of people say, oh, well, if Mark Andrews comes back, Lamar, he'll get tunnel vision. He'll only be looking at him. But I feel like even when Mark Andrews was still there, when he was still playing, that Lamar was spreading that ball around to a lot of his targets. And real quick, just to talk about something that Kevin said. I know he said he didn't want to say it. I'll say it. The Ravens did shift their philosophy when it comes to injuries. They completely did, because they haven't been rushing people back like we've seen in previous years. They've been taking their time. They've been extra patient. Like we look at Marcus Williams this year. Where I remember when he first got that pec injury, it was like, oh man, Marcus Williams, his season might be done. But then they said, oh, he's going to rehab. And I'm thinking, okay, his season probably still going to be done because rehab takes longer than the surgery. But he's back. And it did take him a little while. There was some games where we saw him giving the one-arm shoves and stuff. And it was like, is he really ready? But he looks a lot better, especially recently, than he looked before. Ardarius Washington, I remember when he first went out, John Harbaugh said it's not confirmed that he's out for the season. We'll see, but he has a little chance to come back, but he probably done for the season, but it's not confirmed. Now they got Ardarius Washington back. But we've seen guys previously. I remember a couple years ago, Pat Ricard, he had a knee injury and he came back a little early, but then he ended up getting hurt. Nick Boyle, he came back early, then he ended up getting hurt. Ronnie Stanley, he came back early, and that ended up messing up everything. Derek Wolfe, I know this is an uncomfortable name for a lot of Ravens fans, but he came back early. And so we've seen the process happen a lot, and there's plenty more players that just came back early, and it ended up setting them back even more. So this year, the Baltimore Ravens, as far as injuries, they've been extra careful. And I remember there was a hire a couple years ago. I believe his name was Adrian Dixon. He used to work for the Tennessee Titans. But they hired him, and he was really a recovery specialist, because that was when the Titans, they had like this record where they had the most players that returned from injury on a team or in a season. And then the Ravens, they ended up hiring him a couple of years ago. So I think that was the beginning of a shift in their philosophy, because John Harbaugh did say in presses, hey, we're going to turn over every stone when it comes to those injuries. And they certainly have. And they just changed everything with it. So I'm glad that they did.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Especially football is the most physical sport. Every sport has its issues, right? Baseball, even though they say it's not as physical, it's enduring because it's 162 games, right? Football, you have 16, but those 16 games, you're putting your body through everything. And you truly need to be good enough to go back out there, or you could suffer serious injuries. You just mentioned we've seen so many of them. And before we move into the next topic here, because we think it's good talking about offensive players, defensive players. If you're new to the channel, by the way, if you hit that like and subscribe button, we'd appreciate that. We're here with Engraven, talking Ravens, talking AFC Championship. It's one of the greatest times to be a Baltimore sports fan when you think about it this way. Ravens are hot, Orioles in the spring, but we'll deal with the Orioles in the spring because it is about the Baltimore Ravens right now. But I did want to talk to you, Engraven, about the impact that Lamar Jackson's had. And this is the video that we're going to show you. Marcus Williams, you just mentioned him coming back from his injury. He was on Kay Adams' show talking about Lamar Jackson's impact of what he's meant, but not necessarily in the sense of what he's doing on the field against opposing teams, how Lamar Jackson is actually helping this Baltimore Ravens defense already be so terrifying to face on a weekly basis.
Lamar's jumping into defense. He wants to be part of your defense, Lamar. Are we allowing this? We're allowing the QB to get into the defense picture?
Listen, we're allowing whoever to get in the picture. He helps us so much that he should be a part of the picture. You know what I'm saying? He's out there making us better. All the quarterbacks in the room are making us better week in and week out, and that helps us go into the games playing these other quarterbacks. When we have starting quarterbacks on, our look team, it only makes us better going into the game. We have veterans in the quarterback room that are helping us get these great looks week in and week out. So it's definitely beneficial for us.
Wow, what a shout out to that QB room. I love that from Marcus Williams. That's amazing.
So that's the cool part of not even just with Lamar Jackson, but the whole quarterback room is just seeing this impact Engraven. This team seems to just the camaraderie, the love they have for one another, but truly they are challenging each other each and every day. And there's no secret. And that's a big reason why the Ravens, their point differential that they've had against some of the best teams in the NFL, they've been so dominant because of the effort that they put in going against the best each and every week in practice.
Yeah, and that I didn't see that clip. That's cool that Marcus Williams says that and brings that point out. But then when you think about it, it's like, hold up. You go against quarterbacks every single week. The Ravens defense goes against quarterbacks every single week. They face some okay ones, they face some great ones, they face some good ones and everything in between. They face some quarterbacks that can really, really throw that ball. But it's like with Lamar, they're going against him literally every single day in practice. So you're going up against a quarterback who can throw the ball, but you also going against a quarterback that can run the ball too. And he can do both at such a high level. And that's stressful. So that's got to be stressful for Ravens defense. So I almost feel like when they go against other quarterbacks, they're like, whoo, we've been dealing with Lamar all week. All right, this is a nice little break for us in the real games against whoever else they go against. So Lamar, that can in turn make them a lot better, make their job a whole lot easier.
No doubt about it. And it's been really fun to see it all unfold. Now the job's not done here, and it's going to take a lot, and it's going to be stressful. And I think another part that is stressing people out are conspiracy theorists here in Engraven. There's been some thoughts going around here about the referee crew that's coming into Baltimore. I know you know where I'm going with this.
Don't you love it? We're hosting the AFC Championship, and we're talking referee crews. I mean, how would you like it any other way against Patrick Mahomes? I mean, you knew the fans were going to come out with something saying that the Chiefs were having an advantage some way.
Hey,
the NFL wants Taylor Swift, all the narratives. I love it, but
I thought we were gonna go the whole. I was just saying, I thought we were gonna go the whole show without mentioning Taylor Swift. Now I was gonna be so proud of us.
Did you think we could? I mean,
well, now we have to talk about it too after we talk about the refs.
Yeah, I mean, and Rock, you've been seeing it. Is this something you're gonna have to report on if things go wrong on Sunday?
The refs?
Oh yeah.
No.
I need you.
Well, apparently that's been
some egregious call that's
controversial.
I need you to do journalism and see which refs have daughters that are massive Taylor Swift fans. I need to get into the databases, get it going. Investigative journalism.
Rocco, this is why we pay you the big bucks to sit in this chair.
Sit in my chair. Rocco, have you been a pool reporter? Are you going to be a pool reporter at any point? Like the referee who talks to the referee after the game?
Probably not.
Do you want to do that?
I mean, I would love to, but I doubt they would give me that. I used to officiate. My dad was an official as well, but that's not like, I don't know if
did you like it
out there. I did. I actually liked it a lot until I started reffing adult league flag football. And there were almost multiple occurrences where there ended up being fights in the parking lot afterwards. Not because of me. I'm not like Mr. Tough Guy, but like, testosterone's flowing. People play football. Even if it's flag football, they want to fight you afterwards if you blow a call.
So we got some competitors. We got some competitors in adult football leagues. Now imagine on the biggest stage in the NFL playoffs right now, AFC Championship game in Baltimore. Imagine fans, players, everyone. This is why we're bringing up Engraven. It's not that it really should be a talked about point, but the reason why we're bringing this up is because the conversation, I think Kevin or Zach, you were pulling up the article, and you can give a little bit more context to our listeners of why we're just talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, so no, you got it. I was just gonna say the big story right now is Sean Smith, the referee who was assigned the Ravens versus Chiefs, is notoriously in favor of road teams over the years when it comes to, penalties against the home team, covering spreads, underdogs winning. But my biggest thing is everyone take a deep breath. This is not Sean Smith's actual crew. It is a playoff crew. It is like an all-star team of guys thrown together. So I'm not too worried about it. Engraven, what's your worry meter on the ref conspiracies?
You know what? Hey, I can't lie. When I saw that Warren Sharp first posted that yesterday, I said, "Oh no, no, man, not like this." But I mean, I still felt like Ravens were going to take care of business. But I just feel like, because refs can change things like that
real quick.
A big play down the field. It's like, oh yeah, everybody jumping and screaming, yeah, we got a touchdown or we got a bunch of yards. Then they look back, it's a flag. And you see a lot of players do it. A lot of players will do it from jump. They'll run if they get a touchdown, a big yard. They'll just turn around and see if there's a flag first before they even celebrate. But I did see somebody mention that same thing that you just said about that this is not his normal crew. So hopefully that does help it be a nice clean game. It'd be called right down the middle. But either way, like Baltimore Ravens, they got to take care of their own business. They got to handle business. And it's like you do not want it to be something where the Baltimore Ravens, they're already going up against a tough team and then they got to go against the refs. So you don't want anything like that. And I would not necessarily expect that. But bottom line, Ravens just they got to take care of their own business. So obviously they have to this point thus far, and I expect them to continue. But this is an extra big week. Well, I mean, really any week, really, especially with the playoffs, because it's no, all right, we'll just get better next week after you lose. No, that's it. You're done if you lose. So just coaching, continuing to have them ready, continuing to have them extra prepared, just going over the basics, the general stuff, being repetitious with everything. Is so important in a game like this, especially against a coach like you're going up against with Andy Reid, because obviously the whole ref thing happened, but even before the refs, you're going up against a very, very smart coach, a very, very experienced coach and team and quarterback. Like those guys, they know what it takes to get there under this current regime. Ravens haven't been there yet under this current regime. Obviously, John Harbaugh hasn't, but under Lamar and them, a lot of it, they haven't been there. They do have some players that have been there, which is great, like a Odell Beckham Jr., like a Nelson Aguilar, like a Calvin Noy, and I know there's more too. But they have some guys that have that experience, but it's important that they just still lock in, still be extra ready, and still be extra prepared, because whether it's the refs, whether it's the Chiefs. I mean, before the refs, it's the Chiefs itself. But I ain't too worried anymore like I was before. Because before, when it first came out, like I said, I was like, no, but then I saw somebody mention, it's not his regular crew. So I was like, okay, that's better.
Although I will say it is one of those things where even before I saw it, were we really thinking we were going to face Patrick Mahomes and not get at least one or two questionable calls? So I've already mentally prepared for that. It's just the point of don't decide the game. Yeah, I'm okay with they're going to give him one or two of those ticky-tack calls. Just don't decide the game. Don't decide the game.
How you don't have the refs decide the game is you win 34-10 like you did against Houston. So calls like that don't matter.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, and just as much as people want to complain about, they say Mahomes gets the calls and this and that, and I understand. Still, the Chiefs 6 straight AFC Championship games. Mahomes, Reid, what they've done, what they've accomplished. Yes, they might get some calls, but they are a very tough team. So if the Ravens take care of what they have to do, hopefully that's not even a problem. But Rock, last week we saw the fans' impact on. I know you have a question for Engraven just about what it means, I guess, everything with the fan base here in Baltimore.
Yeah, man, you've been doing this a long time, just with the Ravens, and you've seen this fan base and what they're capable of when you get them in a primetime environment. I know it's not going to be a primetime game, but to be one of 2 playoff games, to me, that is prime time. While it's not the night game and you're not playing under the lights at M&T Bank Stadium, but to be able for the Ravens to host their first AFC Championship game, first time in franchise history for this city. I mean, you saw the impact that this crowd played. Brandon Stevens said it was tough for him to hear at times, and they forced all these pre-snap penalties against the Texans. Patrick Mahomes has said in a past interview that this was one of 2 places, M&T Bank Stadium in Seattle, 2 places that he's had to use silent counts with his offensive linemen because it got so loud. The crowd will obviously be playing a huge factor in this game. What has been the vibe from this fan base? What have you kind of heard from people just coming to you and talking about this game? I mean, because Baltimore, let's face it, M&T Bank Stadium is probably going to never host a Super Bowl because of the weather. It's probably just never going to happen. So obviously the Ravens have won 2 Super Bowls in the franchise history, but this is the closest thing you're going to get to seeing one in Baltimore for this franchise is what I'm saying. So for you, how special is this moment for the fans, for this team being able to host this game?
Oh man, it's crazy because it's history. Like we talked about at the very beginning of the show, this is their first time hosting an AFC Championship, so it's special. Like this has never happened before. We hope that it continues to happen for years and years out. But it's something that's just it's brand new. With I think the last week's game against the Texans, obviously the crowd they were going crazy. But I'm sure in the back of everybody's minds and in the front of everybody's mind too, they're thinking, all right, 1-3, 1-3, 1-3. A lot of different contexts with the 1-3, but still bottom line, 1-3. So this was a big game where the Ravens could shake a big part of that off. And they did. And the crowd helped a lot. They went crazy. I remember being at the Thursday night football game against the Bengals this year. And it was crazy there. It was crazy at M&T Bank Stadium. It was extremely loud. The crowd had a big impact. And there were, I want to say, three pre-snap penalties, and they forced the Bengals to call early timeouts, and it was just crowd was going crazy. So now with this moment, with the circumstances being what they are, like this is the game to go to the Super Bowl. Like it's crazy as a Ravens fan just saying that out loud because it really makes it like that much more special. Like in what is this, Wednesday? So we got to get through the rest of this day. It's gonna drag by. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We got 3.5 days left. And the Ravens will be playing in the game. Oh, no, hold up. That's Saturday. We got 4.5 days left. I'm tripping. They got 4.5 days left till they will be playing in the game to go to the Super Bowl. The Baltimore Ravens are in the Final Four of the NFL right now. They're in the top 2 of the AFC. Like that's crazy. It's not necessarily surprising, but it is crazy. And just the moment is huge. The moment is big, and Ravens fans know this. So I know I've been seeing a lot of Ravens fans complaining stuff about the ticket prices this week because those ticket prices have been going crazy. Like I did see one Ravens fan for 2 tickets. He's paid $5,300, so $5,300. I said, wow, okay. Hey, I said, hey, you can get the money back. The money will come back, but the experience, hopefully the experience does too. But it ain't nothing like the experience. So it's like I get the complaints, but at the same time, if the ticket prices were cheap, then that means you would have a losing team and nobody will want to go to the games. So that's the price of success. But with the Baltimore Ravens and the fan base, they're just energized. Everybody's ready, man. I've been seeing it in the comment section in this live stream right now. Some people that are going to the game, they're just ready. They're ready. Yeah. They're excited. People, I've been seeing people comment on like Twitter and stuff, like, "Oh, I secured tickets to the game." They look at that like it's a treasure because it is. Yeah. It is a treasure. Like to be able to go and experience that live, like it's gonna be crazy. So I know the fans are gonna be ready. They're gonna be extremely loud. They're gonna be deafening. That decibel meter that the Ravens show, like I'm sure it's gonna get broken. It's gonna break. It's gonna break whatever the record is. They're gonna blow it out the water this week for sure.
And I think just to tie everything together here, penalties and fans. That Houston team was a young team, and I think for me, they got that first pre-snap penalty with the crowd going crazy. And then they kind of got in their head a little bit. And then the next one, it got in their head a little more. This Chiefs team with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they don't care about all that. They're 2-time Super Bowl champions. Now, the factor of the crowd's going to be a factor. And I think where it comes in is Jawan Taylor was the most penalized player in the league this year, that Kansas City offensive tackle. And they also have Jarius Sneed on the other side of the ball, who also has, I think he's tied for third, actually, with Ronnie Stanley for the third most penalized player in the league. John Sims for the Ravens had 10 penalties, so a couple of highly penalized players in this game. Could come down to a penalty in this game, but hopefully, again, the Ravens win big and the penalties won't matter, but the crowd noise is electric. And again, last week was electric for that divisional round. This week's going to be crazy, especially when you lead up to game time on Sunday. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Absolutely, and we're close here too, Engraven, because we're going to get you out in here in a minute. We got just 2 more questions. One's really quick, but one to tie it together. And again, if you're new to the channel here, by the way, if you can hit that like and subscribe button. I know that you are liking and subscribing Engraven's videos. That's the guy. That's who we're talking to right now. But I think Rocco has one more question before we have like kind of a quick unlikely hero pick for you, Engraven. So, Rock, what you got?
Yeah, before we get into the unlikely hero pick, just, man, for you, for creating content, for doing this thing, how surreal was it for you to be able to sit down with Lamar Jackson, do that interview, and have everything really come full circle and come together like that? Because that popped off. It was really cool to see you getting to meet him. And it's, I mean, for you to be able to do that, this fan base was loving it. And I'm sure you were as well.
Yeah, it was definitely special, and big shout out to Nitro because he was one that set that up. But it was cool. It was cool with Lamar Jackson, and I'm sure you know from being at the presses and stuff. But with Lamar Jackson, the same Lamar Jackson that you hear and see on TV, like, oh, is he really that humble? Is he really that nice? Is he really that respect? All of that and more. And he had literally just came from signing that $300 million contract. He had just agreed to terms with the Baltimore Ravens, and he was scheduled to fly back up to Baltimore a couple days later. But you could never tell. You would never be able to tell. Like, this dude had all that money just sitting there. You would never be able to tell. Like, this is Lamar Jackson, a superstar. Cause he never acts like it. He never acts like it. He's not arrogant. He's not cocky. He's not a showboat type of guy. None of that stuff. He's extremely humble. So being able to just speak to him about just a little bit of everything, it was a really, really cool moment. And it was nice to just to have that one-on-one, or I get 2-on-1 because it was me and Nitro talking to Lamar Jackson. So it was just really nice to have that personal conversation. And he was actually one that encouraged it because we were at the restaurant already, and he had hit Nitro up, and Nitro was like, oh, we at the restaurant right now. And Lamar was like, oh yeah, I didn't even realize y'all were there. He said, let me come by now. And when he got there, he was actually the one that said, oh, where the cameras are? I thought y'all was gonna do a video. And I'm like, whoa, he wanted to do it. So yeah, Lamar, super, super cool, super, super down to earth. Again, everything that you see on TV, how he same exact way. And I've had the privilege of meeting him a couple of times, especially at his Lamar Jackson fun days that he has down here in Florida. And he, again, always the same way. And I know John Harbaugh, and sorry, y'all know I'm long-winded. I could talk forever about whatever, but with John Harbaugh, he spoke about Lamar Jackson having a photographic memory. And he speaks about that with Lamar Jackson in football, but I got to experience that with Lamar Jackson outside of football, because what I did when we were there speaking of Lamar Jackson, after we were done with the interview and stuff, I had FaceTime my wife and my son. And my son, like, he knows that, oh, Daddy loves the Baltimore Ravens. He talks about the Baltimore Ravens for work. But the only two players that he knows on the Ravens, he knows Lamar Jackson, and then he's a big Mario fan, so he knows who Tyus Bowser is because his last name is Bowser, obviously. But so I FaceTime Lamar. I FaceTime my wife with Lamar and FaceTime my son Carter. So he's looking, he's like, whoa, oh, that's Lamar Jackson. He's like, hey, Lamar. And Lamar was like, oh, I remember you. I remember we took the picture together when you came to the fun day. And I'm like, man, how does this dude who literally he has encounters with thousands of people all the time. He's talking to plenty of reporters, obviously talking to players, talking to people who work at Ravens facility, talking to other players on other teams. He got so much on his plate, so much that he got to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I'm like, how does this dude remember my son? That was insane to me. So that really made me appreciate Lamar that much more, because he showed that personal interest in my son. And I'm sure he's done that with other people as well, but that just made it that much more special to me.
And the guy will still get hate, which just baffles me.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. That's a great story.
Well, and that's the part too that we talked about the last weeks, and even throughout the whole part of it, is why wouldn't you want to root for Lamar Jackson just on the story based alone of what he's done? First off, he's authentic with everything he does. He is true to himself. He's a great guy, cares about his community, cares about others. Oh, and then by the way, he's gone on to be one of the best. We think he's the best player in the NFL right now. But he was also told he couldn't play quarterback in the NFL. You can't do this. You can't do that. Isn't that a story, a guy you want to root for constantly? You're told you can't do this. And he said, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself because I know I can. And I'm going to go out there and prove to you why I can make a difference. So it's just been tremendous. Ravens fans, we're thankful that he is a Baltimore Raven. I know for Engraven, you're thankful you had those moments with him. We're going to do one more thing here. We had the poll up about a few things, Brad, but I think one thing we want to do before you get out of here, Engraven, and again, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the like and subscribe for Engraven. And again, I've said it before, you know, this guy, honestly, Engraven, talking to you, you would make me run through a wall right now. Like Roquan Smith does that. I would go to war for you right now, Engraven. You are an unbelievable storyteller and very motivating. But let's go around the panel here real quick. Unlikely hero for this division or for this AFC Championship game. If there's one player, Zach, I'll start with you and we'll get everyone out of here. who is one guy you think is going to step up that's going to help put the Baltimore Ravens over the top?
I tweeted out yesterday. I had a weird dream. Justice Hill scores 3 touchdowns. I don't know why, but it just came to me, and I just have to stick with it. It just has to happen.
If that happens, you got to play the lottery. Seriously.
I already put $5 free bet on it happening.
Right,
Won
there you go.
$900. So I feel
That
like
is
I'm
the
playing
lottery.
a lot.
Yeah.
I was gonna
The
say
odds
I
with
feel
that are
like it.
insane.
All right, Rock, what do you got?
I'm gonna go Odafe Owe.
Ooh.
You know, just the last time
Strip
out.
sack?
Yeah, maybe we'll get a little Odafe Owe. Maybe we'll get a sack out of him in that game. And I think just somebody on the defensive line is going to have to step up and get after Patrick Mahomes. And why not Odafe? Just throw it out there. You know, if we're talking unlikely, that's my guy, Odafe Owe.
Kev?
Yeah, I like it enough. I had that play against the Chiefs last time that won them the game.
just
So
about to
that's a
say
good
that,
one
yeah.
for me.
Yep.
Zach and I'll have a running back battle. I'll say Dalvin Cook. I'll
Right.
say Dalvin will have a bigger role. And I think last week was great for him, especially the way the game worked, because they were able to get him in the game a little bit with, not really much on the line there, and just get him a feel in the offense in a real game setting. And maybe that'll jumpstart him. So maybe he scores a big touchdown late, maybe has a couple of big receptions out of the backfield. So I'll say Dalvin Cook. And I talked with Kadri Ismail yesterday. He's a big Charlie Kohler guy. I'll also give a special shout out to Charlie Kohler, even if Mark comes back, and I say maybe he scores a big touchdown too.
Okay.
Brad, what do you got?
I'm going to go with, the guy that I always go with, and it's going to be Pat Ricard. The bowling ball going to have a big game. Look, it might not be a 75-yard touchdown, but I hope that guy scores a touchdown. It's always fun to see the big guy running around, and just it's crazy to me how athletic that dude is and how large he is.
Makes no sense.
Wild.
It's insane. So just wanted to see him get involved in the game more. I think he could be an unsung hero.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would go. I know all the attention, obviously Lamar Jackson, but you said unsung hero because everybody been singing about Lamar Jackson, so it couldn't be him. With all this attention that's on Isaiah Likely, and with Mark Andrews coming back, and all the attention that's been on Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham Jr. just being exactly who he is, I feel like not necessarily a forgotten man, but a lot of people are just not really expecting much out of Rashad Bateman. So I would say Rashad Bateman. I would say he would be an unsung hero for me. Last week he had 3 catches. I think they all went for first downs as well.
Yep.
And there were some tough catches too. I was like, all right, Rashad, let's get it, man. So I would go with Rashad Bateman to be my unsung hero.
You know what? Maybe we're thinking the same. I was thinking Bateman as well. We saw Aguilar, one of those guys. But the reason why I would like to see Bateman as well is we just talked earlier in the show about the previous up and downs with the injuries, frustrations, but also in there, we've seen moments of greatness with Rashad Bateman.
Yeah.
You guys remember that slant against the Dolphins, Xavier Howard, 75 yards to the house.
Think
the
about
bank
it
is,
once a week.
Yeah.
Think about it once a week.
It was bank was rocking.
Yeah,
and I look at that. And I even remember the time when Lamar got knocked out of the game against Cleveland and Tyler Huntley would throw the ball up deep down the field and Bateman would just go make a play. I think he's going to have a chance to make some big plays. I'm right there with you, Engraven. And it should be fun. Whatever happens, whoever does it, the Ravens walk out with a victory in the Super Bowl. Everyone's going to be ecstatic, but it's fun to have the conversation. So we hope it works out. I think that's it. I think that's all we got for you, Engraven. Is this pretty painless for you? I hope. Besides maybe Rocco and.
No, this
Why
is
do
great.
I always get so much hate?
Because
I
we
just don't
have to do it to
understand.
somebody. We have to do it to somebody.
I do everything I'm told. I put my hat on backwards. I don't want to wear it backwards, and I put it backwards anyway.
They hate you because they ain't you. That's what.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks.
It is.
Thanks,
It
Kev.
is.
Kevin, you kill me, man. But Engraven, anything for you before, or anything you want to talk about before we go and get out of here?
No, man, y'all are great. Y'all are great. Keep doing what you've been doing. I love it. Always gonna give y'all support. I appreciate y'all taking the time out to have us on here. This was a lot of fun. Y'all are a really fun bunch. Y'all got it, man. So keep doing what you're doing.
You are something.
kind.
You are something
Wow.
else, Engraven.
What a legend.
Ain't nothing, man.
All right, well, all right. Now you're definitely in the NBA Jams competition in the back.
That was your buy-in right there. $50 buy-in, you're paid for. You're good to go.
I appreciate you.
But you're amazing. We appreciate it. We'd hope to eventually have you up here when you have the chance.
Yeah, for sure.
To have you in studio and also for us to repay anything we can do for you. So we appreciate you. And for everyone that tuned in today, thank you for tuning in. If you can hit that like and subscribe button on the way out for us, you already have it for Engraven. If you don't know who that is, he is the best of the best in Ravens content out there on YouTube. So for all of us here at the Ryan Ripken Show and Engraven, thank you for tuning in. Have a day, and we will see you soon for another episode of the Ryan Ripken Show.
We'll catch you. Bam.